You take the information you provide and, well, you dig deep, pulling out those key insights, the really actionable stuff, and maybe those aha moments for you.
Exactly.
Today, we're diving into a really interesting area, building scalable and profitable businesses in the senior care world.
hmm
And we're using excerpts from the 5-week A.S.P.C crash course for senior care entrepreneurs as our guide.
Yeah, and we're focusing specifically on the private pay models. Things like assisted living, senior home care, those placement services, and even consulting.
Right.
It's not just, a growing market, but there's real potential here for you to build something significant, something you own. We'll look at these 4 main business models.
So the plan is to really break these down, not just what they are, but where the opportunities lie, what you absolutely need to think about if you're starting out, and, what kind of revenue we're talking about, all based on this course material. Okay, let's jump right into senior home care. I think a lot of people are familiar with the concept, but maybe not the business side of it, the real entrepreneurial potential.
Absolutely. And the market size here is, well, it's huge. You've got 56 million Americans over 65.
56 million. Wow.
And that's growing, about 3% every year. But here's the key thing. Estimates suggest around 70% of seniors. They'll eventually need some kind of long-term care.
70%.
And the vast majority, they really want to receive that care in their own homes. That preference, that's a massive driver for this whole sector.
That definitely paints a picture of huge demand. And the course mentions some pretty compelling numbers financially too, right? Like $28 an hour average private pay rate.
Yeah, $28 an hour on average. And for agencies that are established, you could be looking at $300,000 or more in annual revenue.
Okay.
And it's worth noting, these private pay clients, they often need, a decent amount of care, typically 20+ hours a week.
Right. So, okay, if someone listening is thinking, all right, maybe a home care agency, what are the very first things they need to get their head around?
First and foremost, it's the regulations. State licensing. And this isn't one size fits all. Every single state is different. You got to really research your specific state's rules, submit the applications, pay the fees, get background checks done. And a key point, many states have separate licenses for medical versus non-medical care. So knowing exactly what services you plan to offer, that's crucial right from the start.
Right. That's the official green light, basically. What about the actual, business structure itself, setting up the company?
Yeah, the course really pushes forming a proper legal entity.
Yeah.
An LLC or a corporation.
Protection.
Exactly. It protects you, the owner. Then you need business insurance. You'll need both general and professional liability. That could cost you maybe around $2,500 a year to start. And obviously, a separate business bank account. Keep everything clean, separate finances. It's foundational, really. Building that solid legal and financial frame.
Makes sense. So beyond the legal stuff and the money side, what about creating the agency's identity, the operational side?
That's where branding and the initial setup come in. You need a professional name, a logo, your visual identity. Just as critical is setting up your systems for care documentation and having really clear policies and procedures for your caregivers.
Okay.
The advice here is basically start lean, start efficient, but always think about how you'll scale up later. Like having digital care plan templates from day one saves a ton of hassle down the road.
Okay, licensing, structure, branding, check. Now, the really crucial part, finding and managing the caregivers themselves. What does the course suggest for getting good people and keeping things running smoothly?
Finding and keeping good caregivers, well, that needs a few different approaches. The course talks about using the big job boards, Indeed, care.com, but also tapping into niche places like relevant Facebook groups where caregivers hang out. And definitely building relationships with local CNA schools, certified nursing assistant schools. That can be a great pipeline.
Good idea.
And honestly, don't underestimate referrals from your current team. Happy caregivers, they're often your best recruiters.
Right. Once you have the team, how do you make sure it all runs like a well-oiled machine?
Operations. Yeah, that's key. A good scheduling system is non-negotiable. The course mentions software like ClearCare or Alea Care tools built for this.
Okay.
They help with scheduling, managing availability, even billing sometimes. You also need clear rules for how caregivers confirm shifts. And critically, you need backup plans. What happens when someone calls out sick? You need a system.
Absolutely. You need that backup. And what about the actual care itself? Documenting everything, talking to families?
Oh, documentation has to be meticulous. The course stresses using digital care plans, easy to access, easy to update, and a consistent system for daily notes. You track the care, any changes in the client's condition, and obviously tracking medications and any incidents promptly. That's vital for compliance and just good care.
And communication.
Just as vital. Things like regular weekly updates for the families, keeping them in the loop, maybe monthly meetings with your caregivers for feedback and training, and definitely a clear on-call system for emergencies outside of office hours.
Oh, let's shift to the money side. The course gives specific examples of pricing for home care, right?
It does. So for standard hourly care, if you're charging, say, $28 to $35 an hour private pay, the agency profit might be around $8 to $12 per hour. That's for shifts maybe 4 to 12 hours long.
Got it.
Then there's live-in care, 24 hours. Private pay rates, they're more like $350 to $450 a day. The agency profit, maybe $100 to $150 a day.
Okay.
Overnight care, usually 8 to 12 hours. That runs about $250 to $350 a night, with agency profit maybe $75 to $100. And respite care, that's the short-term relief for family caregivers. Variable hours, that's often priced a bit higher per hour, maybe $32 to $40, with agency profit around $10 to $15 an hour. It gives you a solid ballpark.
And you don't just have to offer one flat rate, right? There's flexibility.
Oh, absolutely. You can create different tiers, packages based on hours needed or how complex the care is.
Right.
You can also add value-added services, think transportation, specialized meal prep. That can make you stand out. The course even mentions exploring membership models, for more predictable income. Lots of ways to tailor it.
So for someone really keen to jump in, what does the course say they should focus on? Like week 1, what are the first concrete steps?
The week 1 action plan is really about laying that groundwork. First, actively go after that business license. Research the state rules, get the applications ready, register your business entity. At the same time, start getting the word out for caregivers. Post job ads on, say, 2 platforms. Start doing initial phone screens. And finally, build your client intake system. Create those assessment forms, design basic care plan templates, draft your service agreements and billing basics, and also maybe create a starter schedule template. Get familiar with whatever scheduling software you pick and have a basic emergency backup plan on paper.
That's a solid, actionable list for the first week. Okay, let's pivot a bit. Let's talk about a very different model. Placement services. What's the main appeal here?
The big draw for placement services is often the zero inventory aspect. You're not dealing with owning property like an assisted living or even managing a large care staff like home care.
Right. No direct employees, really.
Exactly. Your job is more like a matchmaker, a facilitator. You connect families who need senior living with the communities that fit their needs. It dramatically lowers your startup costs and, frankly, a lot of the day-to-day operational headaches.
And the revenue model is totally different too, isn't it?
Completely. It's commission-based. And typically, it's pretty lucrative, often 50% to even 100% of the facility's first month's rent. Yeah. And since monthly fees for assisted living can be pretty substantial, that means your average placement fee, which the facility pays, not the family, can easily be $2,000, $4,000, even $6,000 or more.
Paid by the facility. Okay.
You're providing value to both sides, and the facility compensates you for bringing them a qualified resident.
And the startup costs seem, well, incredibly low compared to the other models.
That's a huge plus. The course suggests you could realistically get a placement business going for under $5,000.
Really?
Yeah. Your main tools are basically a phone, a laptop, and transportation to meet families and tour places. And it scales really well. You can grow without massive increases in overhead.
Okay, so walk us through the process. A family calls you. What happens next? How do you get them placed?
It usually starts with what they call a discovery call, maybe 30 minutes. You're gathering the basics. What kind of care is needed? What's the budget? Where do you want to be geographically? Then you do a deeper dive, a full assessment. You look at ADL's activities of daily living, medical needs, mobility, cognitive state, social interests, lifestyle preferences. Really get the full picture.
Okay.
Based on all that, you research and find, say, 3 to 5 communities that look like a good fit. You check their availability, confirm their current rates, and then you set up tours.
And you go with them.
Absolutely. You accompany the family on the tours, help them ask the right questions, provide objective feedback, and guide them towards making the final choice.
Makes sense. Now, building relationships with the actual facilities, the assisted living places, memory care, etc., that must be absolutely key. How does the course suggest you approach that?
Yeah, it really hammers home the idea of win-win relationships. You can't just send anyone anywhere. You need to actually visit the communities, understand what makes each one unique, who their ideal resident is. You need clear referral agreements outlining the payment terms. And when you approach a facility, be professional. show you understand their business, their occupancy needs. Negotiating the referral fee is standard practice.
Any tips on where to start?
The course actually suggests maybe starting with smaller independent communities first. Sometimes they're more open to building new partnerships.
Interesting. And how do you keep track of all this? All the facilities, the contacts, the agreements?
Structure is important. The course recommends having a weekly outreach plan, like aim to contact 5 new facilities, schedule 2 or 3 tours for yourself just to learn, follow up with maybe 10 existing partners, hit 1 networking event, send out personalized updates about potential clients you have.
That sounds organized.
And you absolutely need a system to track it all. A CRM, customer relationship management system. Even a simple spreadsheet to start. Track all your contacts, bed availability, the fee agreements, placement results, schedule follow-ups. And having communication templates helps a lot too, standard emails for introductions, call scripts for follow-ups, thank you notes, monthly update formats, referral confirmations. It just streamlines things and keeps it professional.
So for someone diving into placement, what's the focus for week 2 according to the course?
Week 2 is really about building those initial facility connections and getting your internal processes set up. So contact at least 3 assisted living facilities in your area, introduce yourself, schedule tours for yourself.
Got it.
Also develop your detailed family intake questionnaire. That's your guide for those assessment calls. Figure out your pricing structure, research typical fees in your area, draft your standard commission agreement, and finally set up that basic CRM system. Start tracking those facility contacts right away. Get organized from the get-go.
All right, great advice. Let's shift gears again. Now to the model that often requires the biggest upfront investment, but maybe the biggest potential long-term return. Assisted living itself. What makes private pay assisted living so attractive despite the higher barrier to entry?
Well, the course points to potentially exceptional ROI, return on investment. One reason is residents tend to stay for a good while, often 2 to 3 years on average. That provides some revenue stability.
Okay.
And crucially, if you own the actual property, you're building equity over time. That's a huge long-term asset. Plus, there are significant tax advantages, things like depreciation on the building, various business expense deductions.
But getting into assisted living, that means dealing with a lot more regulations, right?
Yeah.
Licensing, zoning, compliance. What are the big things the course flags?
Oh, yeah, that's complex. First hurdle, zoning. You have to confirm the property you're looking at is actually zoned for residential care. That's step 1.
Right.
Then comes state licensing. This often involves needing a certified administrator. And the whole licensing process itself can take 6 to 12 months, typically.
A year. Right.
It can. Then there's safety compliance. Sprinkler systems, fire barriers, all that. And ADA requirements, accessibility is mandatory. Think ramps, accessible bathrooms, etc.
And modifications cost money.
Definitely. The course suggests budgeting maybe $50,000 to $150,000 just for property modifications to meet all the requirements. And of course, all your staff need proper certifications and background checks. It's a significant undertaking.
It sounds like it. So running one of these facilities, what kind of staff do you absolutely need? What are the key roles?
You typically need a few core roles. A delegating nurse is often required. They oversee medication management, do resident assessments, develop the care plans, and train the caregivers on clinical stuff.
Okay.
Then you have the caregivers themselves. They're doing the direct assistance, help with bathing, dressing, mobility, meals, hygiene, and documenting everything very carefully. Dietary staff are crucial too. Planning and prepping nutritious meals, handling special diets, keeping the kitchen clean, managing food inventory. And then you have the administrator. They're overseeing the whole operation. Compliance, staffing, training, budget, resident and family relations. They're the captain of the ship.
And getting residents in the door and keeping families happy and trusting. How do you approach that?
Transparency is key, especially with pricing. The course suggests having clear base rates, maybe $4,000 to $6,000 a month, plus clear tiers for different care levels.
Okay.
Also, clearly define any add-on service costs and explain any one-time community fees, which might be $1,500 to $3,000. No surprises.
Right.
The admission process needs to be thorough but reassuring. Reviewing medical assessments, verifying finances, signing the residency agreement, having a checklist for room prep so the move-in is smooth.
And building trust with the families.
That's ongoing. Proactive communication, weekly update calls maybe, monthly care plan reviews, quarterly family meetings, and being completely transparent and quick with reporting any incidents. Trust is everything.
Absolutely. So If someone's seriously thinking about assisted living, what are the week 3 action items from the course? What should they focus on initially?
Week 3 is about starting the property search and initial planning. So actively identify potential properties in the right areas, maybe connect with real estate agents who specialize in this, visit at least one promising site, start sketching out a preliminary layout plan, even for a small, say, 4-bed home.
Hmm.
Where are the rooms, common areas, what mods are needed?
Mm.
Define your initial staffing structure. What roles do you need? What qualifications? Start estimating those 247 staffing costs.
Right, the budget.
Exactly. And finally, start drafting your resident onboarding packet. Things like the admission agreement template, welcome materials, initial assessment forms, care plan templates. Get those foundational documents started.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, we've talked about 3 distinct models, plus we'll touch on consulting. But running through all of this is the idea of branding. How important is positioning your brand, especially if you maybe offer more than one of these services?
Oh, it's critical. The course really emphasizes brand consistency. If you offer home care and placement, for example, you want a unified look and feel.
How so?
Consistent visuals, colors, fonts, design style across everything.
Yeah.
Website, brochures, emails. Maybe positioning yourself broadly as a senior care solutions provider
Yeah.
if you do offer multiple things.
Right.
You need a memorable logo, a strong tagline that conveys, compassion, expertise, reliability, and making sure your core values shine through in all your materials and interactions.
And where does this brand need to live? Where should people see it?
You need a multi-channel presence, definitely a professional website, clear service descriptions, mission, contact info, active social media, Facebook, LinkedIn are usually good bets in this space.
Okay.
And don't forget, printed materials, brochures, business cards for networking. Critically, showcase testimonials from happy clients. Case studies work great too.
Social proof.
Exactly. Showcasing staff credentials, company milestones, it all builds credibility. The point is, a consistent professional brand builds recognition, fosters trust, strengthens those referral relationships, and just elevates your standing in the community.
And actively getting leads and building those referral partnerships. What strategies does the course recommend there?
For digital leads, the course suggests targeted ads, Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and Google ads. Maybe budget $500, $1,000 a month to start, focusing on specific needs or areas you cover.
Okay.
But you also need to actively cultivate referral sources. That means regular visits, maybe weekly, to hospitals, doctors' offices, rehab centers, drop off updated info, build relationships, and track all those interactions in your CRM. Don't let leads fall through the cracks. Finally, think about community education. Hosting workshops on senior care topics, maybe offering CEUs, continuing education units for professionals like nurses or social workers. That positions you as a real authority.
That's smart. Okay, finally, let's talk about a model that kind of builds on all this experience. Consulting. Why is this highlighted as an opportunity?
Well, because the expertise you gain navigating all these complexities, the licensing, operations, marketing, and senior care, that knowledge itself becomes incredibly valuable. To people who want to get into this field but feel overwhelmed, there's a big audience of aspiring entrepreneurs who need guidance. They lack the practical know-how.
Right.
So consulting lets you tap into that demand. And it opens up different ways to make money, creating online courses, doing one-on-one coaching, selling digital products like templates or guides.
Interesting.
Basically, senior care consulting lets you monetize your expertise. The barriers to entry in this industry are pretty high, so good advice is sought after. You get to help others and potentially build some passive income streams too.
So if someone's thinking, okay, I could do that, maybe add consulting to what they already do, or just focus on that, how do they launch it? What are the first steps?
First step, define your niche. What specific part of senior care are you an expert in? Licensing, marketing for home care, operations for small ALFs. Get specific.
Okay.
Then create valuable content, blog posts, videos, webinars, whatever showcases your expertise and attracts your ideal client. Build a simple sales funnel, maybe offer a free checklist or guide a lead magnet to get email addresses, then nurture those leads. The course suggests maybe starting with one-on-one coaching. You can charge premium rates for that personalized help. Then, as you grow, develop those digital products for passive income. And eventually, you could scale up to group programs or workshops.
Fascinating. Well, this has been a really comprehensive deep dive, hasn't it? Exploring how to build these scalable, profitable senior care businesses using the 5-week A.S.P.C crash course as our guide. We've covered a lot of ground.
We really have. From the potential in home care to that lean placement services model, the investment-heavy but potentially high-reward assisted living route, and finally leveraging expertise through consulting.
Yeah, we've looked at the pros, the cons, the startup needs, the licensing hurdles, how the money works, the day-to-day realities for each.
Touched on the unique advantages and the key things you absolutely have to consider for each one.
So, as you, our listener, think about everything we've discussed today, maybe the big question is this. Which of these paths, or maybe some creative combination that fits your unique skills and vision, which one really resonates with you? Which one aligns best with your interests, your goals as an entrepreneur?
And perhaps more importantly, what's the very first concrete step you could take, maybe even this week, to explore that possibility a little further?
Absolutely. We definitely encourage you to go back to that 5-week A.S.P.C crash course material, dig deeper into the parts that really sparked something for you, find out more.
There's a lot of opportunity out there.
There certainly seems to be. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.